So what about maybe that's perfect. Tell me more about childhood, because I feel like are you Canadian or Coloradian?
I'm Canadian. Yeah. So
Okay.
I'm just north of Montana, like Glacier National Park. I'm like 30 minutes north of there.
I think maybe it's because of
So
some of the videos that you post on social media or something that to me I've been like, those look like the Rockies. Is this guy in Canada
right.
or in
Yeah.
Colorado? Yeah,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Of course, the Rockies, my mind immediately goes to Colorado because that's the only place the Rockies are allowed to exist. So,
Right. Well, and like we call them the Canadian Rockies up here.
well,
It's
there you
like,
go.
well, the mountains don't care. They just stretch along their
The
range.
mountains. Call
You
us what you want. Many people have called us
Yeah.
other things, right?
Yeah.
Well, you
Like
got
I've done hikes where there's the border and it's like, oh wait, where's the border? Like the mountains don't really care about that kind of thing.
isn't
Yeah.
that the funniest thing? That you've got your
Yeah.
Canadian Rockies and we've got our Canadian bacon, and really,
Yeah.
the ham doesn't care what we call it. The mountains don't care what. I heard a little while ago
Yeah.
this, heard or was it something? Actually, it might have been something in an article I was reading, and I don't know. It sounds kind of fuzzy too, so like I'm not sure exactly how verifiable this is. If it's maybe more just something to think about that, but something like astronauts who have gone far enough up into the atmosphere or out of it to be able to look back and see the entire Earth,
Right.
tend to come back with like far less of a partisan I'm from this country, you're from that kind of idea, and far more of a, we're all humans on the same planet kind of idea, which makes sense, but
Yeah.
it is a little bit funny, like in my mind, I can't help it. Anytime I see like a photo of the Earth, like imagining where the borders are,
Yeah. Let's get some context
Divvy
and
this
like
up.
a firm footing here,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Like,
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so have you lived there in Canada all your life, or have you moved around a bit? Tell me about your young life, your childhood.
yeah, no, I'm pretty much a hobbit. I kind of like
That's beautiful.
staying close to the Shire. I was kind of blessed to go on a bunch of different trips or vacations, but like, yeah, I like sticking around close to home. So, yeah, I've kind of grown up in this area. Started, I guess, started piping at around 9 or so. Like me, my two brothers, and my dad all started learning at the same time.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, so it was like, my poor mom.
Yeah.
That's a noisy household.
All of them all of a sudden.
Yeah. So yeah, I kind of always grew up in this area. Grew up on a cattle ranch, so like, riding horses all the
didn't know
time
you
and
were
all
allowed.
that.
I didn't know you were allowed to have cattle ranches up there. I thought we were the only ones, and it had to be in Texas. If you're not
Right.
outside Texas, it doesn't count.
Yeah, exactly. Well, actually, our family brand, actually, it kind of came with the ranch. My parents had bought it. But yeah, it was a guy from Texas who had come up
There.
and then started ranching. So there is a bit
Gotta
of
be
a
a
Texas connection there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only
And then-
Texans know how to raise beef.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, then like went to the city for schooling and then kind of came back. Like I'm about an hour south of where I grew up, so kind of came back to this area and like right now I live in a town of 3,000 people, so it's like
Wow.
kind of a small town, but it's close to the mountains. Can get out hiking and
Every
yeah,
single
so
person in town must know that somebody there plays bagpipes.
yeah, it's kind of like I'm the bagpiper in town, right?
Yeah.
Like,
What? Let's see. I'm trying
Yeah.
to orient myself. I am the classic ignorant American. I know my major Canadian cities on the two coasts, but right there in the middle, man. What is there in the middle?
well, it's funny. We make fun of ignorant Americans, but then it's like, well, if you ask me, like who the president is half the time, like I mean, I don't. So it's like, yeah, it kind of goes both ways. So yeah, like we have the East Coast, right? Like the Maritimes, Nova Scotia, PEI, all that, and then we have like working our way like west, then we get into Ontario, like Quebec, Ontario.
Sure.
And then we have these, like the breadbasket, like these three prairie provinces, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta.
Yeah.
And then at the west edge of Alberta, you're kind of getting off the Great Prairies and now getting into mountains. And that's kind of where I live, is like, my wife's from Saskatchewan, so it'd be like Kansas, like just the middle of the prairie. So in the town we're at, she can look east and see her canola fields, and I can look west and see the Rocky Mountains. So
That's kind of beautiful.
So we're like, we're both happy on the transition zone of the mountain and the prairie. So, and then you keep going west, you get into British Columbia, which is a lot of mountain and forest, and Vancouver's there on the coast, which is probably one of those major cities that you hear of.
Yeah. I wonder, maybe I'm remembering wrong. When I was a kid, I grew up, I grew up down here in Utah, but my mom's from Washington State, and that's how I know some of the Western Canadian places, because she's from right on the border, and so they used to go up into up north into British Columbia and stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And then my dad's grew up in South Dakota, and we used to go back and visit just about every summer, and we go to the Black Hills there. And
Right.
I have this sense that the what was the Sioux name? It was like Paha Sapa, something like that. Was the Sioux the Lakota Sioux name for the Black Hills? And I have this sense that meant something about bread baskets, and so it's fun that then go straight north. And you said bread basket, and I thought, oh, that's. But so maybe I'm remembering that wrong. My if Jeremy is listening, then if Jeremy Way Too Twag, if he's listening, he probably is tearing his hair out right now, going, James, you have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, so I'm orienting myself now for like where my visits to the plains south of you, and being like, okay, that
absolutely
but a little colder.
Yeah, straight north of North Dakota would be like Saskatchewan and Winnipeg, kind of both straight up there. Yeah.
I'm oriented then. So did you impress your wife by saying Saskatchewan without starting to stutter?
Yeah, right. Well, the people from Saskatchewan make fun because they say like everyone in all of the rest of Canada says it differently than the people who live there. Yeah.
So then did your brothers and your dad keep piping too, or are you the one guy who's carried it on?
So yeah, my dad kept piping, and so about probably about hour and a half-ish away, there was a city, like a smaller city, but they have like a grade 5 pipe band, so he ended up piping with them and playing with them. And he passed away a few years ago. So he basically piped as long as he could. And then my younger brother was more the rebel. So like he went into guitar, which normally normal families, guitar is like a normal thing to do. But
the rebel would have been playing the pipe.
Yeah, exactly. But in our family, it was like, oh, piping is the normal thing. And so. And he's kind of got busy and hasn't kept up with music that much, but like he's got a guitar, a mandolin, and but he really is. I think in some ways he's blessed and cursed with this like perfect pitch musical ear.
Oh, I see.
Because like I'd be like with my small pipes out of tune, like jamming with my friend on his guitar. We're in 2 different keys. We have no idea what any of this means. And we're just like making noise and having fun. Yeah. Oh, come play with us. Bring your bull run. And he comes and his ears are flattened back like a cat hearing a bad noise. And he just like can't get out of our apartment fast enough. So it's like, I feel like my ear had to develop over time. So it was like, I could make a lot of bad noise without it being so disruptive, because you need the repetition to get better. So
totally.
Yeah. And then my older brother, he's like, I always just felt like a loser of a piper growing up, because my older brother was so good, and I never thought to think like, oh, I'm a good piper, he's just amazing. I just thought, oh, I'm just like he's a normal piper and I'm awful, right? So
It's rough how often that like sibling thing happens where it's
yeah,
like, well, my sibling already does this thing, so I have to find something else to do.
right, yeah. And I don't know if that was, maybe that was a bit of a factor of me getting out of pipes, but I don't think so. I think it was just like he could just like play a jig 9/0 like super fast, like
Right.
he could just hear some music and then play it, or just never hear a song, see the sheet music and play it. But he's kind of got busy with work and family and kind of out of piping. But I mean, he's someone who could just pick up a set of pipes and play something really really well, regardless. I think so. So yeah, it's kind of like between him and me, I would have put all my money on him continuing to pipe more, but again, it's sometimes music you take a break and get back into it. Like
True enough.
I probably didn't play my pipes for the better part of a decade for a while, and until I kind of got into it more again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have sisters as well, or was it Ma, Pa, and the boys out on the cattle
Right.
ranch?
Yeah. So we got a baby sister.
Yeah.
She's 8 years younger, and she never took any interest in piping, but she was a highland dancer. So.
Oh, right on.
Yeah. And then she played trumpet as well, like in school bands. So.
Hey.
So I had to give her my old trumpet.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So then, like, what? I'm just imagining, like, were you all piling into the pickup truck at the end of a hard day of work on the cattle ranch with your pipes to drive over to town to play with the grade 5 band, or was it
Right,
was it more like a family, like more time just spent at home, everybody learning, you only visit the town every once in a while, or how did that shake out?
Yeah, so it was very much like, always kind of felt like an oddball piper growing up outside and like learning outside of a pipe band, right? Like,
yeah, that's true. There's a sense of this, like, well, what band did you learn with? And it's like, if you didn't learn with a band, then like, what are you doing, right? You know?
Yeah, it's exactly. Like, and so my older brother, he didn't join a pipe band till he was in university in Calgary, a little bit bigger, like a bigger city, and and yeah, so like we did all our piping just kind of on our own and in solo competitions. And I always thought too, like, if I was a real piper, I'd be with all these, I'd be doing stuff with a pipe band. But at the same time, the pipe band didn't really interest me, that like it wasn't what grabbed my soul. It was whenever I heard like a Julian piper or this Celtic group at a beer garden in the Highland Games, that would be like that is what turned my head off its shoulders, going like, whoa, like I want to do that, So yeah.
But that's I want to say the word that I'm thinking of is insidious. I'm not sure if that is the best word for it, but it feels like that's the insidious thing, isn't it? That thing that snuck in there was, you said that if I was a real piper.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Then I would be on with a pipe band, and I'm not like, man. Sometimes I really go too far and then regret what I've said later, because like I really do love playing with pipe bands, and I love listening to pipe bands, and like that's my home base. That's where I got started, and so I love it, and I intend to keep playing with pipe bands until I die. I'm hoping my kids will join me in a pipe band. So I'm really not saying it's bad. I'm just saying, like, there is this like pervasive sense in the community in general that, like, if you're serious about it, you'll be competing. And it's like, man, competition can help for sure. It can help drive you to improve and stuff like that. And it can be fun if you're into it. But to make it exclusive like that, even if it's not directly said, that there's like this underlying sense that, like, well, if you're not competing, then you're not taking it seriously. Then you're not a real bagpiper. That, man, we got to get free of that. That's no good. Everybody got to be able to play however they're going to play,
Yeah, and I've put out some videos on that. I can't remember if I made them public or if it was just in my Facebook group, but like on just that, like, everybody has these soundtracks, right? Like, mine's related to, I didn't grow up playing in a pipe band enough, or and then comparing myself to my brother. But I was talking to another like really established, really good piper, and their soundtrack was like like this soundtrack that like, you know, like a song stuck in your head that you can't get out, right?
Yeah,
And it just whatever the self-doubt story is, right? And their self-doubt story was they didn't do enough solo piping, and they got pushed into a band too early and had done nothing but band stuff and no solo competition or solo gigs
No
in
matter
their development.
what
So
we are,
it was the complete opposite of mine,
Yeah.
yet the underlying theme was all the same. Oh, well, this is why I'm not as good of a piper as I should be, right? So it's like, oh, well, clearly if, you know, the two opposites can't be true, so it's just that kind of self-doubt. Story.
There's a great poem that's something like, humans are such a funny lot, always wanting what they're not. It is such
That's
a feature
good.
of humanity, though, isn't it? That like we like, first of all, there's this, like, I don't know, is it part of the hedonic treadmill or something, that we're always like chasing whatever we don't have. It's like whatever once we get what we always wanted, there's always going to be something else that comes up that we still don't have. But then there's also this comparison thing where we look at like the worst possible thing in us and put it in the worst possible light, and then we hold that up against the best possible thing about somebody else, and we're very like forgiving and hold it up in the best possible light. And it's just we're not fair to ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like, yeah, so it's I think it's a lot of like learning to be kind to yourself, to let that inner musician grow, and just also like the constant reorientation of like, just like enjoy the journey, right? Like enjoy the learning of the song, the perfecting of the song. And if you enjoy getting that song as ready as you can for the gig or the competition or whatever, then like the result of the competition, that doesn't matter, right? Like, because you've enjoyed just the getting it there. So and that wasn't really my mindset when I was competing.
Yeah.
But it's like something that's kind of brewed over time.
Yeah. So then what? We talked about your poor mother with all these pipers learning all around her, but what about the poor cows? How did they handle it?
Yeah, so they seem fine with it. Like, yeah, so we had there was a local doctor in town, so town was a half-hour drive away, and he had a son my age, and he played the pipes in Calgary, which is about a city 2 hours away. He played with like a grade 3 band there. So he got us all started, and then we would just kind of, like, once a week after school, we'd all sit around his kitchen table and all play, and
there we go.
and then we would just practice on our own at home, and I mean, the nice thing about growing up in the middle of nowhere on a ranch, like, just do your pipes outside,
right?
If it wasn't winter, and it's actually like green, grassy hills, lightly treed, and cows all over the hills, and we had some highland cows too. So
classic.
Yeah, it was always like, there's some evenings before the mosquitoes got bad that it was quite enjoyable to pipe outside. So the cows seemed okay with it. They got used to it, I guess.
Sometimes when those drones first start kicking in, it sure sounds like a cow anyway. So
yeah, exactly.
Blended right
Yeah. No, there's lots of times where it's kind of picturesque. Yeah, so it's really, compared to a lot of people I talk to who, living, and eventually when I was living in an apartment too, it was like, it's a lot tougher to to just like step out and play. Yeah. And then eventually we did, my brother and I, for probably a couple of years anyway, maybe 3 years, but at least 2 years, we did lessons with a professional piper in Calgary. So that was like a 2-hour drive, and we do that once or twice a month. And that's kind of more, well, we were solo competing the whole time, but that's kind of more when we got into more serious solo competing. Only about like 3 or 4 Highland games a year, but just like taking them seriously, like having a good teacher or instructor or a good coach, like, yeah.
So then what, like, you said you took about a decade break. When did that happen, and what was going on during those 10 years? Because, like, if you weren't playing bagpipes, what on earth in the world else could you possibly have been doing?
Yeah, I know, right? I was thinking about playing bagpipes. No.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so like, so probably I phased out of like solo competing, I don't know, maybe when I was 14 or so. Kind of when high school sports started ramping up. Like my brother and I would always show up to bagpipe lessons like with our cleat marks all over our hands and our fingers taped and blood, and our teachers just like,
what were you playing, by the way?
Little bit of everything, but volleyball and rugby were probably the worst on fingers. Yeah.
There's like a generalization that happens in my brain that I assume that in that area of the world it must have been lacrosse. Like that's probably the only sport.
Oh right, lacrosse,
or maybe curling, but mostly lacrosse. So.
Yeah.
Oh, you have volleyball up there. Well, good for you. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
So you kind of turned toward the sports for a while, huh?
Yeah, and I that's still a little bit of a mystery to me why I did that. I always, like, part of my recent growth years, like these last 3-4 years, I've kind of moved away from competition and more into like, oh, I can just run because I enjoy it. I don't have to like have a race on the calendar to make me run and then try to outcompete my training partners, and like I have this big competition drive that I've been having to kind of grow past and have a funner life for it. But so I thought I got out of solo competing because I was sick of the competing part. But then I just went crazy into sports for a while and did university sports as well, and just like,
so the competing.
Well, that's competing. So, but I had a brainwave a while ago, and I think a big part of it is community. Is I, like, on all these sport teams, I was usually the captain and one of the main leaders, and I really have this drive to like build a community and help other people be the best they can be and stuff like that. And like,
well, that feels
when I was just kind of,
that makes sense to me.
Yeah, like, and it kind of, with what I'm doing now with Bagpipe Ready, it's really what I'm doing is trying to help others and trying to build community, and so it kind of fits a little bit with why I have that drive. I don't know, but so whereas I think the solo competing with bagpipes, it was just kind of like on my own, and even if I was winning it still wasn't kind of deeply satisfying. Like, so I kind of think, well, if I was with a band and helping other people up and coming, I probably would have stuck with it more, just if there's that community aspect. But
no, that totally makes sense. Yeah, I mean, that resonates with me. I know that there's certainly joy to be had from playing by yourself as well, but I know that for sure, like the bigger thing that keeps me plugged into bagpiping is precisely community. It resonates a lot with me. It makes sense.
And I know, like, different people have different drives, but like that seems to be like just achieving medals. Like it didn't last, right? So I think the sports was what had that community component. But I mean, like, I played trumpet all through high school band as well.
I played trumpet in high school as well.
Oh, that's awesome! Yeah, you like all the quiet instruments like me.
That's right, exactly.
So even like kind of mid high school, when I was kind of quitting solo piping competitions, I'd still like play for ceremonies or weddings or funerals, like different things like that as they come up, or talent shows or events in town. Like, just, I mean, it's a small town and you're the bagpiper, so it's like, hey, can you and your brother play at this? Oh, yeah, sure. Right. So we play at various things like that. So that kind of kept me into it, even though I wasn't competing. And then in universities, I played a couple pub crawls with my brother's pipe band, but university I started playing my small pipes more and more. So I probably got small pipes around like 14 years of age, because we went to this, or maybe 13, we went to this bagpipe camp in Washington, I think Coeur d'Alene.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah, and that was
I've been to Coeur d'Alene before. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it was good. So our teacher, our like professional pipe teacher, she was going down there, and she said, yeah, you guys should go down. So we went down, and like it was really good, and some really good pipers and instructors, but like I really couldn't read sheet music. Like like when people ask, oh, do you learn by ear or by sheet music? I said, well, I don't know, I'm bad at both. Right? Like it's like I can't just listen and play it, but I can't, I need the sheet music, but I can't just like look at the sheet music and play it. I need to hear it. So it's like I need a full body integration.
Right, yeah.
So I was really slow learning the songs, but like there was a lot of good experience, and I think it really helped my piping. But there was one instructor, and he had Hamish Moore small pipes, which I'd never heard of or seen before, and he anyone who wanted to, he like, oh yeah, like, because you're in a little group and you go around all the instructors, and so he let us play them, and he was quite impressed with how well I did. I think I did Scotland the Brave, something I was familiar with, and I didn't have a steady tone, but he was impressed with how steady I could get right off the bat, and we went back. I brought because my mom had come down after the sessions, like in the evening, we went back and showed her, and I at that pipe camp too, there was a uilleann piper and a guy on keyboard just did entertainment one night. So I got this exposure for the first time to small pipes and uilleann pipes, and it just like sparked something in me that went dormant for some time. I feel like still just like germinating and coming to be. So yeah, so anyway, I had no money for small pipes, but I won a fishing derby. Oh. Ice fishing derby.
Nice.
No one caught any fish, so they had to draw the name at the end of the day. And it was like minus 36, minus 38 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it was freezing. Anyway. And my mom and I had this moose hide blanketed over us to keep us warm.
Now, Alec, this story is getting more and more Canadian.
It's getting a little bit too Canadian. I can pull off. We didn't break for a back bacon break or a Canadian bacon break. No.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, they draw the name at the end, and I won, and it was like $2,000 or $2,500.
Just for persevering in the cold.
Yeah. So we used that money to buy my first set of small pipes, which is still the ones I play. So
that's so cool.
Yeah. So in university, it was even though I wasn't competing or doing, still the odd gig or like a university talent show or something I would play at, but like. For the most part, I just started really playing my small pipes because I could do it in my apartment and it was fine. And that's kind of when I got into small piping. So, yeah, so that was, even though I didn't really crack out my big highland pipes very consistently for the better part of a decade, I was doing a fair amount of small piping, but still in kind of fits and spurts. Like there was, no real reason to be putting in lots of hours each week. It was just like, I don't want to study and need something to wind down, so play the small pipes for a while kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
That's probably, on the same topic of like different motivations and piping for the reasons that fit you and your time of life and stuff. That's probably a good experience that most of us should have at some point in our life to realize like, because I don't know, like we were saying before, that the drive of having a competition on the calendar can be a really good impetus for improvement, But there's got to be an element of fun in there too, and sometimes being able to sit back and relax can infuse a different kind of joy or enjoyment into the music. That, and I'm not saying it's all one or the other, but maybe there's a little bit of a yin and yang relationship going on,
Oh, absolutely, yeah. That's kind of what I'm finding now too. Like, if I have a gig on the calendar, whether it's big pipes or small pipes or both, it's like, oh yeah, that's good to get or like someone says, okay, we want you to do these 3 tunes. I'm like, oh, well, how about these ones? Because I already know that, no, we want these 3. Oh, okay, now I have to learn these 3. But that's still a really good for that musical growth. But but then there's times where it's just like, I just want to kick back and play this or try to write this or try, you know, and just kind of see where it goes with no outer world reason other than I'm just doing it to do it, right? So I think, I agree with the yin yang. It's kind of like you need to handle both those opposites and sometimes swing more one way, swing the other way. Yeah.
Yeah. So then, I watch everything that comes up in my social media feeds that you post, and I enjoy all of them. A lot of them are tunes, of course, but
I was so surprised you're like, oh, I follow your channel. I was like, oh, really?
Dude, I think I've been following you for like a couple years now too, you know. So
yeah, that's about when I started. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I'm like, well, you're a good pipe. Like, you're not like my target audience or whatever is the middle-aged person who's always wanted to pipe and never piped before, or they got gifted a chanter and tried it and were miserable with it, and it's sitting in a cupboard for 3 years. Like that's who I want to try to help, right? So when you're like, oh, I follow your stuff, really? I was shocked.
Yeah, I definitely it's not like I have no nefarious purposes, I promise, Alec. I'm not shooting for your job and trying to poach students or anything like that. I honestly just I like bagpipes, period.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like I like it when I see you playing Ba Ba Black Sheep out in the mountains or something, you know, because I got nothing against that. I'm all for it. But I especially like
that's cool.
You put a lot of jokes into everything you do, and that's some of my favorite stuff.
Oh,
and
yeah.
For me, the epitome, and tell me about all your bagpiping stuff, sure, but how did you get to the Bagpipe Yoga video? Because I feel like that was a high point for sure.
Oh, good.
That was comedic gold right there. I really enjoyed that one.
Oh, I'm so glad you enjoyed the Bagpipe Yoga because that was a great example. And I have other videos like this too, where I'll just get this idea, and kind of like what we're talking about, the yin and yang of piping. Like, oh, I have to be productive and prepare for this competition or gig. Like sometimes it's like I have to be productive. Someone has paid me to do this course on this tune, and I have to create video content for this, right? Like,
yeah.
And that's good because it gets consistent content out, But some are like these Bagpipe Yoga ones where no one has a clue I'm doing it. No one has asked me. I've just had this idea, and now I'm awake at 2:30 thinking about it.
That is the
rehearsing it over and
projects,
over,
isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm just like, and not in an anxious way, just in a excited way. And I'm like, okay, however it works, this idea has popped out of the universe into my head, and I can say no to it. It'll go away eventually, but. I just have to do this, right? Yeah. So I have to do this, one, so I can sleep at night, and two, so I can watch it and laugh at it. So,
yep.
And these are usually the videos my wife, she doesn't even bother watching or anything.
Yeah.
It's like I'm really not trying to impress anyone. I just want to sleep at night and laugh at it. So yeah, to hear that, someone else, and often those videos aren't the best performing videos,
oh sure, yeah.
So I've learned they're completely for me. And if someone else gets a kick out of it, bonus.
There's at least one other person in the world who's enjoying them.
Yeah.
Me right here.
But so yoga, I tried a little bit in university. I'm very much like a recovering workaholic. So in university, when I was in the prime of, okay, you gotta be productive to be worthwhile, I tried taking this rest and relaxation class that talked about yoga and mindfulness and meditation, and it was lectured on all these mats, and I don't know if they took you through mindful breathing or something, but the very first lecture I fell asleep. And I didn't wake up till everyone was leaving, and someone elbowed me.
Needed it?
Yeah, so little did I know that's what I really needed in my life, but I took it as, well, this is a waste of time, and I dropped the class.
You're so burnt out and exhausted that you fell asleep during the course, and you're like, I don't need this.
Yeah, exactly. It's well, that wasn't even productive. What a waste of time. I just, my wife and I were doing a crossword just recently, and it's what's a 4-letter word for take a break? And I said, lazy. And she said, no, Alec, it's rest. R-E-S-T. I said, oh, well, lazy is 4 letters.
This is the cattle ranch work ethic that you can't get yourself away from. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. So little did I know, in my kind of early 30s, that would be like the breakdown point and the learning, like, oh, okay, yeah, rest, relaxation, recovery, tuning into your body. Like all these things are actually a really important part of life's rhythms. So
I feel like I can relate to you in a lot of ways, Alec, and this is one of them that I had not anticipated. That, like, my wife tells me often that I need to stop being so resentful of sleep, right? That, like, I wouldn't have noticed it about myself, but she tells me, like, she'll tell me, like, it makes you angry that you have to sleep at some point, and she's like, sleep is your friend. It'll make your working hours better. You just need to sleep. And I have, honestly, just like really recently in the last few weeks, like really recent, in the last couple of months, I've got like ADHD medication that I'm trying out and stuff like that.
Okay.
Which maybe, I don't know if that's having some effect or not. Like, I don't know if this is a common experience for people, but like I'm like, this is doing nothing at all. This is pointless. And then my wife and kids are all like, you have been so much better lately. So I'm doing it because I trust them and believe them. But I just in the last little while I've been like, all right, I'll try to get like, I don't know, 6.5 or 7 hours, like 4 or 5 times a week.
Right.
And I am begrudgingly admitting that, like, okay, that maybe actually is making my life a little better.
Yeah.
So I'm beginning to accept it, but I still have a little bit of resentment in me for just that we even have to sleep ever. Like, what a stupid thing. Why are we designed this way? Like,
right. Yeah.
Why can't I just go into like an elvish low power mode and go for a walk and think about stuff while I'm sleeping,
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, and that's kind of like with me too. It's like I used to pride myself, 4 or 5 hours. I can get twice as much done as all these other so-called humans, right? And it's like, and little did I need 7.5, 8 hours, and it's like, life changes when I get up to that, but then still, like, the stress response is still there, like, so if things, whether it's lots of music gigs or like work stuff, family stuff, like whatever, if there's lots on the go, then the tendency is still to work late and not sleep and not do yoga and not do meditation, not do all the things that I know is helpful. Like, so it's a lot of like remembering to, I gotta shift gears. So yeah, the yoga is kind of a new thing. And with COVID, I hate having to look up stuff on my phone. So like I have a pretty good anger response too, or irritation response. So this yoga routine I found and I liked it, so I just ended up memorizing it, and I've been doing the same yoga routine. Sometimes I'll vary it up a little bit just with my own ideas, but for the most part I've been doing the same yoga routine since the start of COVID. And it's great, then I don't have to look it up on my phone and that, and it's just like, I don't know, just my humor brain, like in university, my roommate and I did a few spoof videos and stuff. Like, it just, I don't know, just that yoga idea came in.
You can't help yourself.
Yeah, like it is just like, it's just perfect, like instead of saying namaste, say amazing grace. It's just like, this is just too good. I'm like, well, maybe I'm offending the yoga people and all the bagpipe people, and I'll lose my following, and like, but I'm like, well, whatever. If that happens, it happens. I have to do this.
but that's I think that's part of the magic of it, and I know that, like, of course, like, the worst possible thing you can do to a joke is explain it, right? Break it apart into its elements and figure out, why is this funny, But I also kind of like doing that, and it does. I feel like in general, there's a generally applicable rule in comedy that, like, whatever you're doing has to have a level of actual, like, you have to actually know what you're doing to some degree. You have to, if you possess some of the, like, real vocabulary for the the joke you're making, then it makes the joke that much better, you know?
Right. Yeah.
And like as a viewer of the joke, even if the viewer or listener, the person receiving the joke, even if they don't also possess that specialized vocabulary, if you use it, it makes the joke better for everyone. And so I think that's part of why that one works so well, is that you know bagpiping and you also know yoga, at least enough to be dangerous, as they would say, right? You at least know at least enough to be able to make some of those little jokes that those are really where the spice of it is, you know?
Yeah, and it's like, it's just funny, right? Like, and it's not just like the bagpipe yoga. It can be, like playing Adam's Family on the bagpipes, or what, like, as humans, we want to draw those borders on the globe. We want to say, no, this is bagpiping, this is not bagpiping music. We want, this is yoga, no, this is athlete, this is musician. Like, we want to, and I think sometimes comedy, like this bagpipe yoga video, it's just like, we just mess with our heads a little bit to be like, we blur the lines or combine those two worlds, or like, we think things are so opposite, and then we stack them on one another in such a hilarious way that, like, like, I don't know, it's just, but I know what you mean. And my real goal was, if some poor soul comes across this video in their feed who's not a bagpiper or yoga person, they'll have this double take, and is this a thing? I miss this? Like, is this real? So, like, the whole video, I'm deadly serious, or
That's
try to be. I probably laugh at some point, but like, I like, what I really want is, like, people. Wait a minute, is this like sometimes, like Monty Python or that British humor, it's like you just have this. Wait, did the joke start yet? Is this the If it's well done, you can. I mean, how many of us, if we're serious, if we're honest about it, how many of us, when we first heard of goat yoga years ago, thought it was a joke at first, and then it turned out it was a real thing, like in Saskatchewan, we always drive by this sign, goat yoga, and I always thought, like, what the heck? And it's a thing. It really is a thing. But it took me like 4 or 5 years to realize that.
So then what about the people who are around you now? Like, I mean, you're married. Is your partner okay with bagpipes, or is this like a hurdle that you have to get over,
Yeah, right. No, so actually I met her probably when I wasn't doing much bagpiping, actually.
So you kind of tricked her then.
But, well, like, she found somehow in conversation, so we met at a different province, so like 2 states over. The only time
Canadian,
we've been
2 provinces over.
But the only time we'd been to that area of the country, either of us.
Well, that's the other thing too, right? Like, 2 provinces over. Like, let's be clear, provinces are massive. That's like a ways,
so
ways away.
It'd be like 6 states over. But we went for my brother's wedding, and it was her best friend, or one of her friends, and my brother. So we were both in the wedding party. Yeah, we were both doing university at opposite ends of Canada, and we met and we danced and we visited, and she loved that I was a bagpiper. Cool, I gotta start playing my pipes again.
Yeah, that's right.
And anyway, so we did the long distance relationship for a while before we got both in one place and got married. And
it's fun that means that when you're hanging out with your brother, your wife gets to see her friend as well.
Yeah, they live quite far away, but like in theory, right?
Whenever that might happen in the future.
Yeah, exactly. So she herself plays clarinet and fiddle. Mm-hmm. So before we had kids, we both played in a symphony for a few years. I played trumpet and she played clarinet. So we did music together, and then
I think didn't you do a Christmas video with her on violin once?
Yeah. So she's on. Yeah, she's playing the violin or the fiddle there, and and she's been, like, I never thought myself as a musician. Mm-hmm. I think maybe always because I had a bit of a struggle to read sheet music and learn new songs, and often with a new song, like your anger with sleep, I just will hate that song. Sometimes a song, it's like I knew it in a different lifetime or something. It's just like, I just love this song. I just want to persevere and learn it. But sometimes like Danny Boy's one, like, I've always resisted learning Danny Boy. I've never liked this song, and then I had to learn it. All of a sudden, someone asked for a workshop on it on the pipes.
For sure, as a request.
There was a couple Irish gigs we're doing with a different group that I had to learn how to sing it, and then I had to learn how to play on the whistle. Like all of a sudden, the universe was like, "You're learning this song," and and I was quite unimpressed and didn't like the song, irritated with it. But the more I listen to it, it's like it has to sink into my bones. And then I can't stop playing it because I love it so much. Like it's like I resist it coming in, but once it gets deep enough, then
it never leaves again.
Then I just love it. So so it's like that initial resistance I have. Like, I don't think of myself as a musician, but my wife very much thinks of myself as a musician, and and like, so she's always like 2 or 3 steps ahead of me when I'm like, oh, Laura, like. She tells me about this Celtic jam in Lethbridge, a small city about an hour, 15 minutes away from us. And I'm like, she's like, yeah, Alec, you should go. And I'm like, oh, no, I never do something like that. Like, I haven't played my small pipes in front of people like ever. Or like, and it's like, and then a few days later, it's like, Laura, I really want to try going to that Celtic jam. And she's like, yeah, I know, I already booked a hotel and we'll go as a family. I'm like, oh, okay. And then there's a few people there who have a band, and I end up playing a couple gigs with them before they officially invited me into the band. And I was like, Laura, you wouldn't believe it. John invited me into the band, and they want me. And she's like, yeah, I know. I knew that the first night we went. Like, and I was like, how'd you know? And she shows me a picture of him looking at me playing, grinning away, and she's like, yeah, I took a picture because I knew. So.
She knew that was going to be the beginning.
Yeah. And then just recently, as I'm talking more about, like, Laura, I think I need to get, like, because I've been singing in a choir a bit for the last year just with our local church, and I'm like, Laura, I think I see some progression. I can actually hear a little bit if I'm on pitch or not. That it's like I've opened that door a crack. What I really need is like to work with somebody. And she's like, yeah, I know, you need voice coaching, right? And I was like, yeah, exactly. Like that's exactly what I was trying to say. So she's like, yeah, of course. Like so she's been supportive. Like I think some spouses might be like, well, why would you waste money on voice lessons when
right
it's not going to help our income or whatever. But she's been helping support me, and before I even know I need the support. So
it sounds like she's
very lucky that way.
She has your best interests at heart and knows you really well, maybe better than you know yourself. And isn't that a lovely definition for a marriage relationship? Somebody
exactly.
who knows you better than you know yourself.
Yeah, and I think like for both of us, we bring out the quiet parts of each other that is wanting to come out. For me, it's the musician side. Whereas for her, it's it might be other pieces. So
I'm assuming that it's got to be something like wildly different. Like you're like encouraging her to take up roller derby or something. Like
right.
Totally on the other end of the spectrum. I know you want to start a gladiator ring. I already booked you some lessons with a martial artist. So how did the Get Bagpipe Ready thing get started? Like as a business venture?
Yeah, so it started.
We're about an hour deep, so like let's go ahead start talking about like your big thing.
Well, I almost think some of this other stuff might be more interesting to your audience.
That's kind of my joke, because honestly, I think the other stuff is what I love anyway. If there's a topic, like let's get to it, I guess, if we have to.
But I guess even if someone's not a beginner piper, I think kind of my origin story with Get Bagpipe Ready is helpful, because it's all about, it's not a direct path, and it's all about learning by failure, right? So many people think, I have to learn this song or embellishment or whatever perfect the first time, and it's like, no, you have to learn by making a mess of it over and over, right? That's how it gets perfect, is my theory. So I guess the start of it was I was burnt out as a physio. So I, like a physical therapist, my
Yeah, I saw some
is
of
my
your.
job. Yeah.
You've got some medical therapy or medical humor out there on the internet as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I did wonder, like, is this guy a legit doctor? Like, where's this coming from? Because it seems like he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. So as a physiotherapist or physical therapist, and
Is that a Canadian American thing? Do we say physical therapy here?
Yeah.
And you guys say physiotherapy?
yeah, we say physiotherapy because that's what the Brits say.
This is like. Do you also say maths?
Maths,
Like mathematics? Do you say maths in school when you're studying maths, or do you say math? Like you're going.
we
to
just
math
say
class?
math.
Oh, okay. So that's very American of you. But the
Yeah. It's funny because some
Canada,
things.
What a
yeah,
strange land.
I know some
Mysterious.
some things we take the British thing and some things we take the American
And
thing.
of course, this is so unfair because basically Canada can't have anything that's its own. Everything
Yeah.
you do must be either British or American. It can't be.
Yeah.
It can't be the Canadian way.
Yeah, and then within that, like, I don't know if I can quite think of an example, but like, it's funny, like people like my grandpa really ingrained like certain words that are, well, this is like humor is spelled with OU, like this is
sure.
how we spell humor. We're
Yeah.
part of the British Crown, like,
Yeah.
whereas like, well, like everyone else in Canada spells it the American way,
Yeah.
like so it's like just you can have little funny differences like that as well. Yeah. So it started as burnt out as a physio.
Yeah.
So my number one solution is, well, I have to try harder as a physio.
That sounds true to personality. Yeah.
With
Sleep
the
less,
productive,
try harder.
with the productive mindset and workaholic.
Right.
So instead of just working full time and being tired of being a physio, I worked my own business in the evening as well as working full time for the health system. So I just tried more, and that didn't work, at all. So then I actually dropped a day a week. I went down to working 4 days a week, and I quit my private business, seeing clients on my own, and then I went into partnership with another physio, and we tried to create an online business, and gosh, I think it was about 2 years of trying different things, losing money at everything. Like we tried to create an app that would help physios do assessments, and that ended up flopping. We tried creating an app that would help us assess runners online to help them with their injuries and create a whole thing helping runners online, and that ended up flopping. And then then COVID came, and so then we did this whole thing online to help physios learn how to do tele-rehab assessments with COVID, and that ended up flopping.
Man.
And then we ended up teaching, like, just doing a coaching program with physios and postgraduate courses online with physios, and that actually made some money. But the problem is, like, the more money we made, the more money we spent to get people to, like, we'd have to spend so much money to get people to watch our free webinar to then sign up for our course. So it's like we were still losing money at the end of the day. So that was 2 years of tons of work, and I worked more hours doing that than the day I had dropped from the clinic and doing in-person physio. So again, it was not where it was doing more of what I was burnt out doing. And we were in Saskatchewan at my wife's parents', and I woke up in the middle of the night. Again, sometimes those ideas, right, that you just like, I just have to do this. Like, so for the past couple of years, I'd been learning banjo, a 5-string banjo online.
Yeah.
And I'd found some real awesome people on YouTube teaching banjo, and I'd found some really awful videos too that maybe would be helpful to an intermediate, but as a complete beginner, never doing a string instrument before, like other than a bit of mandolin, like it was like I needed certain things in videos to help me move forward. And I just woke up in the middle of the night, and being in Saskatchewan was good. Like, no internet, at my wife's family's place.
Yeah.
Like, so like no internet. I guess there is cell phone, but it uses up data. So it's like, so basically I was completely unplugged for a week from being in this workaholic online business. That
I was going to say, it sounds like a
losing money for
workaholic's
2
nightmare.
years.
You were probably going crazy for a couple days.
Yeah, it definitely going through some withdrawals and but yeah, so woke up in the night and I just had this brain and I just like wrote out in my journal 2 pages and called it Get Bagpipe Ready, 2 pages of this business plan or business model, incorporating like all these things I've been trying and learning with Andrew, my business partner, that, you know, and I really got along with him. That's why if I didn't get along with him, I probably would have pulled out sooner, but
Yeah.
I got along with him. I wanted it so badly to work, but it just, nothing was working. But like, I was like, I think a lot of these ideas could, you know, like the idea of like putting out free content and looking to help people and
Right.
creating a Facebook group and creating these connections and like this whole thing. And also I was like, you know, I'm not an awesome bagpipe player. I haven't played consistently for like 8-10 years. And, you know, even my competing, I got up to grade 3, which isn't awesome. It's kind of average. I was winning, like I won medals, you know, all the way from Western Canada right out to the Maritimes. I won medals at grade 3, but then after that, I never did grade 2 because that was when I kind of transitioned out more into sports. But it, you know, like, you know, someone who's never heard bagpipes hears me, they're like, "Wow, you're awesome!" But it's like, yeah, like, you know, like if someone who's in grade 1 hears me. And it's like when I ran track in university, wow, Alec, you're so fast. It's like, yeah, I'm the slowest one in the team, right?
Like, that's totally the thing, right? If you're a bagpiper, you of course listen to bagpipers, and you know, like all of us know that none of us is good, right?
Right, yeah. So, but I learned like despite losing lots of money with Andrew, I learned so many things. Like he had like one great analogy he liked to use is, you know, if you're on the beach and someone is drowning, you know, are you going to not save them and look around and say, "Oh, I think there's better swimmers here than me," you know, or no one else is here, but I know I'm not the best swimmer, so I'm not going to, you know, call for help or offer help or do anything, right? So it was kind of like that moment where it's like, you know, and to carry on something good, like, here's this guy putting out banjo videos. I'm now playing banjos with my wife grew up fiddle bluegrass, so bluegrass fiddle music, which I'd kind of tried a little bit with my bow run and Irish whistles to come in on, and her dad's a banjo player, but it was just kind of like, I still can't quite convince her to do Celtic music. So I was like, okay, I'll take the first step. So towards her music. So learning banjo was a way I could play with her.
It's interesting to me too that like being right in the middle of learning a new instrument yourself probably put you in the right headspace to make good content for people who are learning bagpipes.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was like I wanted to carry forward like the goodness people were giving me from their YouTube content and helping me actually. And I was like, this is actually possible. Like about a year and a half into it, I took a few lessons online with a pro, like someone who's really good. But for a year and a half, all I did was YouTube, and I was learning the thing. I could play with my wife and her dad doing some bluegrass songs. Like it was like, wow, this is possible. And I just so appreciative of this content I've gotten. And yeah, it put me very much in that beginner's mind and being like, hey, I'm not the best bagpiper, but I can teach someone how to do a scale or a doubling or a basic song or whatever. And I'm like, and from the banjo, like, it's like, okay, I know what videos I hate. I know what videos are too advanced for me. I know what ones are just right. And then I kind of just got this idea. And then I took a quick look at kind of what kind of piping content was out there. And mostly what I saw was videos that were like 10 years old, you know, from the best camera at the time, which was awful and awful audio, and somebody just being like kind of droning on to steal your name. Like it wasn't like, I'm like, oh, like I know that person has some personality, they're just not letting it show, you know. So that was a big motivator, is like just getting in front of the screen and not being someone outrageous who I'm not, but just like, yeah, get in front of the screen and be myself and make it feel like you're talking to Alec and at his kitchen table and taking a lesson and goofing off a little bit. And so
Right.
it was not like, you know, listening to an audio book by Siri or something. Right?
Right,
It's just
totally.
like, yeah. So that's it. It really started by failing at all those other online businesses, and yet I wasn't on Facebook before doing these physio online businesses. So I learned about Facebook. I learned how to create a Facebook community. I learned how to create a YouTube video and YouTube channel. I learned how to create an email list. I learned how to, like, all these things that I had I'm very much not a technical online person. So I learned all these tools that didn't help in the physio business world, but have been really extremely helpful in the bagpiping.
That is really
So,
interesting.
yeah.
And I love that it's like, I love that the whole thing is like, you wouldn't have seen these connections until they had already happened, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's really funny is, like, I don't know if anyone's listening and they look up my channel and they think, oh, well, it's doing really, it's doing quite well or whatever. Like, but it didn't start out that way, because I put up these two first videos. Like, as soon as we got back from the Saskatchewan trip, like, and of course it was at night after the kids were in bed and I was up late, not sleeping.
Not sleeping.
And, yeah, because I was stressed out about my real online business losing money every month. So I put up these two videos, and I was so excited and so pumped about them. And I think that was like in October. Yeah, it was after we went out for Thanksgiving. So it was in October. I put up these two videos, so excited, and nobody watched them. They didn't get any views, like nothing, like not even like 2 views or like nothing. And I was like, oh. And then of course I was back plugged in online, so I kind of it just went to the wayside. I thought, oh, that's another one of those like ADD ideas or whatever, and like, okay. And I started working hard with the physio business again. And then like 6 weeks later, like, get an email notification, someone has commented on your video. I was so excited.
Yeah.
And I go there and like, oh, and they even left a link. How amazing. Click on it. Oh, and it's a link to like a porno website or a dating website or something. And then I like, oh, so then I just got that same sort of comment every few weeks for a while.
Yeah.
And then I'd come across again, because I was working on this other online business and reading stuff, and like I'd come across this idea of like just doing this mini experiment, like just like, you don't know if it's going to work, just pick a timeline, pick a task, and do it and see. And rather than you do it once and it doesn't work, but it just wasn't enough time, kind of thing. So I was like, okay, for the month of March. So this was already October to March. I hadn't done any Bagpipe Ready stuff. So I was like, okay, for the month of March, I'm going to try experiment. I'm going to put one, I think it was 2 videos out every week for the month of March. But I was doing 2 different channels. I was doing my Get Bagpipe Ready one, teaching bagpipe stuff. And then my other channel was my own personal YouTube channel, and I thought this was the golden ticket idea. I was just filming myself do banjo each week, and then people can see how much better I am week by week. And I knew that was the idea that was going to really take off. And I was just doing the bagpipe one just because it's like, well,
as an exercise.
I'm following this mini experiment idea, and it's like, okay, whatever. But what happened was the complete opposite. Nobody watched any of my banjo stuff. And then all of a sudden just a little bit of consistent content, whether it got me in the YouTube algorithm, all of a sudden I had like 8 subscribers, like 23 subscribers, and I had real people commenting and being like,
Right.
wow, this really helped, or hey, I have a chanter somewhere in my basement, I'm going to look and find it, or like, or hey, can you do this song, or like, it was like, and it was really interesting how motivating it was to talk to real people about that. So then that was the start of my consistent content making, and really ever since then I've been like, putting in consistent time on it, and
And
then
your
eventually
YouTube channel currently is clocking close to 400,000 views altogether.
yeah.
How does that feel? That's got to feel a little weird.
Yeah, it's quite crazy. Like
Yeah.
if you got all the bagpipers in a room who
Right,
are
yeah.
learning like that would be a lot of noise. Yeah, so yeah, so it's really cool, really quite amazing. But like it's also it's so much better of a fit. Like that analogy of, if a flower is not doing well, just put it in its right environment and then it'll blossom more. Like, like me compared to doing the online physio stuff compared to the bagpiping stuff. Like, like this is more about building the community. It's helping grow that musician part of me, which for whatever reason seems to want to come out. Like it's a lot less live sessions and more pre-recorded stuff, which fits, being a busy dad and still like, so it's just such a better fit and better, like more sustainable for me for sure.
Yeah.
So it's good both ways. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So then if anybody listening is interested and like, I guess just basically like how does it work? Because what I see is, of course, your social media feed stuff and your YouTube stuff.
Yeah.
But then you've got a website. If someone were to join the Get Bagpipe Ready like via the website, then do they get access to other videos? Like do you have like a private YouTube channel, or is it straight from the website,
Right.
or is it downloads, or how does that all work?
Yeah. So basically, and a lot of these ideas have happened on the way. Like I didn't have it quite all this planned out, but yeah, basically there's like free YouTube content, and then from there, like, so a lot of some tunes I do all the lessons free, but probably most of them I do the first 3 free. So like first 3 lessons on a tune are free. And my goal is I've given you enough of the tune that if you really can't afford to pay for the membership, you can kind of limp along through the rest of it, right?
Yeah, gotcha.
And also you've gotten to try out the tune, see if you like it or not, and if you want to pay for it or not. But really, if like someone has done those first 3 lessons, they love it. Yeah, there's a link they can click on, and then they can just buy that single, like Danny Boy's the one I just put out. So like they can buy that Danny Boy workshop and have lifetime access to it, unless I die and quit paying my website fees. But or they can join the membership where they get access to all the tune workshops I have.
Gotcha.
And I put, partly to control my workaholicism, I do one new tune workshop every month. Like, because when I first started, I'm excited and I'm like, pumping out all these tunes and just like not sleeping, right? So it's
Same
like,
exact
okay,
problems
I do
repeating
once a
itself.
month, so I don't do more than once a month. It keeps me in check, and then it's also it's kind of also keeps me accountable for some steady growth. So then anyone who's in that monthly membership, they get ongoing access to all, and plus they know they're getting a new one next month kind of thing. So.
How many, have you found like an average like number of sessions? Like how many videos are usually the total amount of videos it takes to get a person to a tune, to, all the way through a tune? Or is that very different for each tune?
Kind of like some tunes just have a ton of repetition.
Yeah.
So I find those ones usually 7 videos sometimes, but then I'd say I'd say most common is 8 videos. And then some of them are there's just like less repetition or just a little bit longer tunes. So sometimes there is like 12 lessons, but I find, usually 8 is probably the most common for for how I do it.
Yeah, gotcha. And is that usually from chanter up onto pipes, or is it all chanter work? Or
Yeah, so those ones are all chanter work. So it's just like learn the tune on the chanter, and then I do some. I call it bagpipe coaching.
I can't help it, Alec. I can't help it. I don't know if it's a tick or what, but you just said doo-doo. I have to point it out.
Oh,
I can't help it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I did say
Doo-doo.
and I do some.
Doo-doo. Sorry, that's my inner child. I'm just being,
we're reading a lot of Captain Underpants and Dogman right now. I don't know if you've seen those, but there's a lot of doo-doo in those.
Are you kidding? Have I seen those? My longboard that's sitting next to me right here has Captain Underpants stickers all over the bottom.
Oh, amazing! Yeah, not joking. I was, because we started at 7:30, and at 7:15 I was reading Captain Underpants to my two boys, and I was like, "Oh, it's 7:15. I gotta get down to the computer." So yeah, the doo-doo is coming out.
Well, sorry to throw you off with the doo-doo reference there, but I'm also not sorry, because I feel like it needs to be pointed out whenever it can.
Yeah, exactly. So as I was saying, I do bagpipe coaching. So for a long time, because I did so much live sessions with like the physio business, like we pay for all this advertising and get all these people watching our live webinar. So we'd have like 100 people watching a live webinar, and then the kids would just be going crazy, and someone's sick, and my wife needs me to do this because the kids are like. And meanwhile, it's like I'm live, right? Like video and on and. There was just so many stressful situations. So my initial plan with the bagpiping was only pre-recorded, nothing live. It's too much of a headache. And so that's why I came up with this bagpipe coaching, which some people have really loved because different time zones or their schedules are crazy. So basically, unlimited, they send me a video, and within 2 days I send them a video. So it's kind of like online lessons, but nothing's live. So
then everybody can make it work with whatever their schedule is.
Yeah, and I found
that's a cool idea.
That was particularly helpful, like where my tune workshops are all chanter, just like learn this tune on the chanter.
Yeah.
The bagpiping or the bagpipe coaching was really helpful for people transitioning from the chanter to the pipes. Because a lot of it is, and I would do a video demonstration, like this is what you're doing, this is what you need to do, or hey, this is where you're at, try this as a technique exercise, and then they can show it to me, and that was also before I was really good at getting Zoom settings. So anytime I tried a live lesson with someone, like they'd play their chanter, and then it would just Zoom would mute it out.
It shuts it out, yeah.
And it's like, that's sounding better. Yeah. Can you lift up where I could see your fingers?
Right, yeah.
Do it again. So eventually I got better at the settings with Zoom, but yeah, so I do that bagpipe coaching, which is mostly on the pipes. Not too many people do chanter work with that. And then I did eventually get into doing more live lessons as well. Like, again, not something I necessarily advertise, but people just seem interested in asking it. So
yeah.
And that's a lot on the pipes. But a funny story there. So I debated for like months if I should put live lessons on my website. Like, oh, here, I do live lessons, email me if you're interested, kind of thing. And because I didn't want this huge influx of live lesson people. So, I don't know what, finally, I'm putting it on the website. After losing sleep for many nights, I decided to do it.
Yeah.
And no change. I got no new students for like 8 months. I thought, it's going to change my life. I don't talk about it with Laura first, my wife, and then there was nothing. And then for whatever reason, 8 months later, it was like 10 new students all at once. Like, I'm like, whoa, like, where did that? So you can't predict things. Yeah, exactly. It's like you can't predict what kind of outside effects things. You can only predict what you put out, right?
Yeah.
Like same with playing for a gig, you can't predict how it's going to go, or a competition. You can only you can control how often you practice. You can control what speed you play, what tune you choose. You don't know how people are going to take it, so don't waste energy worrying about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So is at present is bagpiping is Get Bagpipe Ready? Is that your all in full time thing, or do you still do a little physio work on the sides?
Yeah, so I did end up going down to 3 days a week with physio. Before I really started the bagpiping stuff, it was just, I think, so when I completely pulled out of physio online business with Andrew, I kind of like, you hit these different rock bottoms.
Yeah.
So that was another rock bottom where it's like, I have to make some changes. So I quit that business. I quit another day a week. So I went down to 3 days a week with physio. And it wasn't because I was really doing Get Bagpipe Ready or making any money that way, but it was just like, I just know I need to create some more space and time and get a little bit more away from physio. So, but needless to say, about a quarter of my income right now, 3/4 comes from physio, and I'd say a quarter of my income right now actually comes from the Get Bagpipe Ready. So
Yeah.
so like that's pretty significant.
Yeah,
And
that's absolutely.
yeah. So and again, that's not really something I quite expected. I was just like, especially initially, this whole business model was more like less about making money and more about like, hey, like I can line up all these dots. Like,
Right.
I'm not an expert piper, but I know what's a good YouTube video for a learner, and I know what I like when I'm learning, and I know like basic piping, like, so.
It feels like that's an important distinction to make, and I know that I've heard people mention it before, and so I know that it's like a known thing, but I just like, and in no way am I like judging your piping, Alec, of course, right? But like I experience the same thing where like, of course I listen to and watch amazing bagpipers, and so
Yeah.
I'm very aware that I'm not an amazing bagpiper, and it's like there's a separate skill set, which is the ability to teach, and that's.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily go hand in hand with actually being the best on the thing you're teaching.
Yeah.
Sometimes the people who are really good bagpipers are terrible teachers, and the other thing can be true as
Exactly.
well, so.
Yeah, and I got a funny story about an NHL hockey player about that. But first I will say, I think you are an amazing bagpiper.
Oh, well, shucks. Well, I think you're an amazing bagpiper, Alec, so take that.
But that goes back to what we were saying before, right? Where like, especially initially when I started this, I wasn't as into piping again, and like, I think I was really underestimating myself as a piper, right? And that self-doubt track coming in, and whereas like, like anytime I've seen, like long before I knew who you were and knew all the different hats you wear are the same person. I like, anytime I saw your social media stuff, I was just, wow, this guy's an amazing bagpiper. And he's just like in the backyard going away. So it's like, and it's funny because when we're playing, we worry if there's other bagpipers in the crowd.
Yes, that's what we're most worried about.
Yeah, because I mean, face it, guitar players, piano players have it tougher than us. Everyone knows if they make a mess of things, but no one knows if we make a mess of things or play the wrong note or
1 in 3,000 or whatever that might be there in the crowd.
Skip the whole third part, or play a different tune completely and miss all the grips or whatever. No one knows. So we worry about the other bagpiper in the crowd, but like when I hear any other bagpiper, I'm always just like, I judge myself more harshly. Like anytime I see your content, oh, this guy's amazing. That's why I was like, when you said you followed me, I was like, what? Like, you're an amazing bagpiper. How did you even find me? So.
Well, thanks. Little ego boost for me for the weekend.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, you have my email if you need another one.
Deal. A standing agreement anytime either of us needs a little boost to the ego.
Yeah, pat each other on the back. Yeah. So in my undergrad, I did it we call it kinesiology, Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology, or like physical education kind of might be in the States, physical education or pedagogy, or I don't know what it go by.
Is kinesis? Is that like kinetic? Is that it? Is it like
kind of like
movement of kinetic space?
Yeah, like physical movement education. So a lot of some sciences, but a lot of, like, I did a lot of coaching courses.
Yeah,
and like the professor would be an international coach, and then he'd teach you about coaching. And so I did do a lot of classes learning about teaching and coaching, and I just have that drive to build community and help other people. So it's kind of, teaching education is kind of a good fit. So, but he had this funny story about he was running a kids hockey camp, and they had this NHL hockey player come in, and he didn't disclose who it was, because of course in Canada everyone would know who it was, so he didn't disclose who it was. But this like, all the parents had to fundraise to get enough money to pay for this NHL hockey player to come in, to be a part of the camp, to attract more kids and stuff. And it's a big thing. Yeah. And this NHL hockey player, like, so Brad, he's my prof, and he's the guy helping run this camp. And he's like, okay, yeah, so and so here from the NHL, he's going to teach us how to, do a slap shot and wrist shot. And okay, so take it away. And the hockey player is just like, yeah, here you go. And he just like fires it in the net. And he's like, okay, great. Can you explain us how to do that? Like, what's our first step? What do we do? And he's like, yeah, here's the puck, and you just hit it in, and he just like hits it again. And it's like, yep, that's all he had. Was like, outside of visual demonstration, there was like, and Brad said he's just like standing there, all the kids waiting and watching, and the hockey player's just standing there, and he's got nothing. And Brad's like, okay, and just from then on, he had to just like fake the rest of the camp, and they basically paid all this big money for the expert. And so
that's rough.
Yeah, so that kind of goes like, someone might be a way better piper than me, but can't teach, or just they have an awesome personality, they're a great teacher, but they get in front of a camera and they just kind of freeze, right?
Yeah,
like,
totally.
It sucks their personality out. Whereas I'd been working 2 years in this failing business to show personality in front of a camera and computer screen. So it was like it was kind of like paying tuition. You don't make money in school, but eventually you get a job done.
Right. Do you think that sometimes like the desperation of trying to get that business model to work drove you to like really show a lot of personality?
Yeah. And I think I went through those phases where by the time I got to Bagpipe Ready, it was like I'd already been doing this for 2 or 3 years now.
Right.
And I'd already gone through the trying to be extra charismatic, trying to, tell this story to like really reach the trigger point of this audience. And like I'd done all this stuff, and by the time I got to get Bagpipe Ready, it's just like, I can just be myself and let things happen that are going to happen.
That's kind of perfect though, because it's like you had to push the limits. Like you pushed stuff maybe, and I'm imagining here. I didn't see any of your physio videos, of course, right? But I'm imagining like you might have pushed some things too far, but then that made it so that you could then relax back into something that was natural and worked really well. And so
yeah, exactly. And I'm fully aware. Like there's some beginners out there like. Yeah, my content is perfect for them. It's helping them. I know it because I have contact with them, and it's just a wonderful feeling. But I know there's a lot of great pipers out there that are probably not even aware I exist or my content, and that's fine. But they might come across my content and be like, who is this ding dong teaching this? He's not even that good. And like, what? But like, maybe it's rather than being embarrassed about thinking of people like that, I've reframed it and being like, you know what, they might see me and be like, this Yahoo has over 5,000 subscribers and he's got a crappy camera and he and they might think I could do way better than this. And it's like, good, go start your own thing.
Way to reframe it,
so I'm like, cause it's easy to sit back and have an idea and never do anything with it.
Yeah.
And, seeing someone like, this person teaches lessons online, this bagpiper, and yeah, they've been a pipe major for 40 years and they've won gold medals at Worlds and and they have a website and teach online. Well, that doesn't get me motivated to do anything, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, this is just a normal person and he's out there
Right.
doing this. Hey, maybe I could join that pipe and drum band that I just didn't think I could. Or hey, maybe I could start that YouTube channel on my Julian pipes, or like whatever it is. It might be teaching bagpipers online, or it might be something a little bit different niche. But like I don't know, I kind of, that's one reason I don't want to get completely perfected, and not have humor and not people see, oh, he made a mistake there, or oh, like the one video, I think it was Scotland the Brave, where I'm hiking up this hill and I hadn't played my pipes in about a month, and then I went out to the mountains and shot all these videos. And it was cold and it was windy and my pipes were going out of tune and my fingers were cold, and it was the last video I shot, and then but then I kind of messed up the tempo and missed the grip or something, and but it was just like the lighting was perfect and I was just like done, and I tried it one more time after, but the sun went behind clouds and it just wasn't visually that nice of a video, and so I just like, well, whatever, I'll just go with the one. It's a little bit crappier piping, but it's the better video, and for a very beginner, they don't even notice those mistakes. And I was like, well, for people who are good at piping, they'd be, what, this guy's learning? Oh, well, maybe I should say yes to, those 3 people who keep asking me for lessons. And I say no because, I'm not that good of a piper. Well, if he's doing lessons, I'll do it. So I'm like, well, it could motivate people. I don't mind being the clown that motivates people to do good things.
Someone's got to do it, right?
Yeah.
That's the niche someone has to fill. It does feel to me like there's a... like, I can understand... I have some friends who get really, really annoyed when, like, what they would call, like, suboptimal piping is put online, And, like, I guess I can understand sometimes they'll make a point of, like... maybe if not very good piping is presented as if it were good piping, that like this misrepresents the art form or the instrument or something, like, I guess there's probably some sort of argument to be made in that direction. But I just kind of feel like, no, in general, let's shed that, because like you're saying, there's a wider thing that happens even outside of piping, where like if you take the few sort of heroes of the thing, and I feel like this is like present in some of the maybe worst aspects of like nationalism and some of the ugly sides of organized religion and all kinds of stuff, where if you take a few heroes and turn them into godlike figures and put them on pedestals, then that becomes the standard by which us normies are judging ourselves.
Yes. Yeah.
That's just not, I mean, like, there is a place for an amazing professional bagpiper to do like amazing performances, and that's what I listen to day to day on my, in my car and on my headphones and stuff. And those are the YouTube videos I look up to go like, wow, that is amazing, And sometimes it's something to aspire to. For me personally, more often it's a way to just be amazed at someone else's skill, and I know I'll never be there, I'm just really love enjoying it, But if there's nothing in between, if there's no like you say, like normal people just putting out content, then where's the context for me as an also normal person to think, I can do this too, If it's all just the impossible heroes, and, not to pontificate too much here, right? But it's like, if it's all video clips of people who, first of all, have godlike ability, but then also potentially did 40 takes, and this is the very best of all of them. And then there's that human thing we were talking about at the beginning, right? Where now I'm going to take what I saw in that video and assume that is baseline normal for that person. And then I'm going to take what I know about my worst practice session and consider that baseline normal for me.
Exactly.
It's like, it's just, and it's not, it has a strong potential to turn people away from learning the instrument because they think I could never do that, rather than, or they've started trying and they give up because they go, I'm never going to be there. I've been trying for 2 years and I still can't play like so and so, It's we don't want to. It's like we're self-sabotaging as a community in some ways when we do too much of that. There's got to be room for people who aren't godlike to also have content out there, because that makes the rest of us who aren't godlike feel like we can keep going and it's fun,
Exactly.
Let me climb off the soapbox now.
No, this was something I was hoping to bring up with you because I hope it doesn't ruffle too many. I hope you don't lose a bunch of subscribers.
Well, again, and again, that's like this is the same kind of thing that like I don't want to say too much because I love the professional, amazing bagpipers. I don't want that to go away. Please no, I need that every day. I listen and watch these videos, so I need it. I'm just trying to say like let's get some stuff in the middle as well.
Yeah, and like I really think it helps looking at another instrument where it's like, because no one in the guitar world is giving someone heck because they're not playing a chord properly. Those are just 2-finger chords. You can't do that,
Yeah.
People won't know what a guitar sounds like, You're putting a bad name out for guitar. It's like, no, every guy or a gal and their dog is playing guitar, and it's not making guitar any less popular. In fact, it makes it more popular. And right. When someone sees an amazing guitar, like the Dire Straits, Mark Knopfler, I think he's one of my favorites. Like when it doesn't take away from him. Like no one, right. like it's, I think the popularity of the instrument, the more people trying basic stuff on an instrument is huge. And I like the 3D bagpiping guy.
Yeah.
He's in the States. I can't remember his name.
He is
I think
in Colorado.
You had him on.
Yeah.
Like just like it's like we've tried so, and just in history we've made bagpiping such not an instrument you can just get going on, right? And I think it's kind of out of trying to protect the tradition, but then actually I think we're at more risk of losing the tradition altogether if that's our attitude. So I don't know. I think the more the merrier, and having a workable sounds good set of pipes at a decent value that people like. You can buy it. Like I have a guitar. My friend got it for like $10 on the buy and sell, and it's perfectly playable. Like you can get a guitar cheap that's playable, and no one is knocking on your door going like, "Hey, you're not playing real guitar music." Like that doesn't sound like Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits. It's like, yeah, I know, right? like, but you can still have fun with it and get into music, and who knows where that music journey will lead. Maybe you'll just play on your own in the evenings. Maybe you'll play at a campfire. And I would just love bagpiping to have a little bit more of that, attitude. Like it's not about it has to be this way, it's right or it's wrong kind of thing. So I do get some interesting comments from time to time because I have some videos, like most of my content I'm breaking down embellishments, but I usually give an embellishment-free version, and then I have a couple tunes that I just go through a whole tune with no embellishments, like really simple stuff, and those tend to be the videos that people get the most upset on. But also they're the videos that people are the most excited about. It's like, I've tried like 4 times, never gotten anywhere, and now I can actually play this. It's so, it's...
I spent a long time as one of the people who thought that it wasn't good to learn a melody without the embellishments. Like a very long time. Like it's only been very recently that I've realized like, oh, it's okay to play a simplified version. Like that's actually probably good because you actually get started learning a little more directly.
Right. And I think, like depends what your goals are. Like if your goal is to solo compete or be with this band or what, sure, you should. But if you just like want to play for yourself or whatever, and like I found, because I sing a lot with my small pipes, and I started doing that when I first got them. So I was like, and especially in university when I was playing them more. So, and I find when I sing with the small pipes, I don't think embellishments. If they happen, they happen. Sometimes I add more embellishments to fit the words. And sometimes I actually take out embellishments to make it more simple, but it's not really, I'm thinking about my singing. And I'm noticing my playing. I'm not thinking, I should do an embellishment here necessarily. So I'm just kind of watching my fingers do, but I'm not thinking about what they need to do. So that kind of that loosened my grip on embellishments.
Loosened your grip. Nice.
Yeah, I know, right? Nice. I just had to. And then too, just small pipes in general, I find, like, now that I'm playing with this Celtic band a little bit more this last year, I'm finding some of the stuff they do is so ripping fast.
Yeah.
Like, just keeping up with this fiddle player, like, there's not much for embellishments happening. Like,
Right.
I never played, I know Rakes of Mallow is one that there's a bagpipe version floating around out there, but honestly, I really love this fiddle version better. And like I as I've gotten more familiar with the tune, I've found where I can kind of sneak embellishments in here and there and do different things. But for the most part, it just sounds good with very little or basic embellishments and just going 9/0. And so that playing with this group, I only started with them, this year, so almost a full year. But yeah, like that too, kind of, again, kind of shifted my perspective on embellishments again. Like, oh, maybe on small pipes, embellishments are a little different than the highland pipes, or depending on the song, it's a little different. And then also, like, with the trumpet background, like, I still remember our high school teacher, like, telling us, like, if you're playing the same phrase of music a second time in a piece, you never play it the same way. And bagpiping's like the opposite. It's like you always play it the same way if it comes up again in the song.
Yeah, if you have the slightest difference, then that's a knock on your score sheet right there.
Yeah, so that's like, so sometimes with tunes I'm writing, I'll purposely like kind of change it up, which is very un-bagpiperish, where it's like, well, the first time it happens in the tune, we do it this way, and like sometimes the embellishments are very basic, like a grace note or something, but by the end of the tune, it's coming out as a torluith, like it, because we can't do volume, so let's work with something
to accelerate things.
Yeah. So, and I think, so I'm on my soapbox now, but I think a mixture of embellishments, non-embellishments, I feel like that's more traditional if we go back pre-militarization, if I could say that word, of the instrument, right? Like, of course, military pipe and drum band, you want everybody doing the same thing. Naturally. It's part of that mindset of like, you wear the same clothes, you get up at the same time, you do everything. And when they say charge, you all leave the, you leave the pit and charge at the same, like so you perform on the battlefield, every action has to follow that same mentality. Like, and I think of piping pre-British Army in Scotland is like more of a language dialect. Like, oh, I can tell by how you're playing, this tune that you must be from this area, right? Like, it's like, like there's just this little like, this is the language and the music here, and this is the accent here, and this is, and it's an oral tradition. So you just, like, it predates sheet music, so you're learning from this teacher who plays it this way, and they've added over the years of their 40-year piping life, they've added these nuances because they like it, and now you're learning those nuances, and now you build on those nuances because it's kind of a more interesting, dynamic, growing kind of thing rather than it's black and white, it's played this way because that's the black on the sheet music and it's not played this way. Like,
right. It's interesting too, that, like, to think about it being, if you go back far enough, an oral tradition, and how we naturally assume that of course there's going to be regional dialects and regional accents with the spoken word. Yeah. And the connection of oral learning, and how that, it's not at all unreasonable to think, like, I mean, in fact, I think it was on a recent episode of Way Too Twag's Bagpipe and History podcast that he had a story from Seamus Ennis about an uilleann pipe tune, and that, like, Seamus said something about, he just had this little throwaway thing where he said something about, like, this person was from Ireland, and I think he must have been from the west of Ireland. And I did wonder for just a second, like, why does he think that person must have been from west of Ireland? Is it because the story sounds regional, or is it because the way the tune is played sounds regional? Right, yeah. And maybe there's more of a connection to that in other kinds of piping. Yeah. And maybe I've beat this dead horse already. Like, I want to make clear, like, the militarized, everything's exactly the same kind of piping is a skill set and is amazing and impressive. When you can play each part exactly the same over and over again, like that takes a lot of focus and skill, and especially when you do it in a large group. I love that kind of piping. I guess the reason this comes up in conversation so often is that if that is the water where we've been swimming in, you and I, Alec, if that's where we're coming from, then what we're discovering is there's other stuff too. And so, of course, we contrast it against what we're used to. It's not to degrade it. It's just to say, like, well, this is what I'm used to, but I'm discovering that there are these other traditions, these other ways of playing, these other ways of approaching the music that I wasn't aware of until recently, and that's interesting and exciting. I lost you, Alec. Can you still hear me? Ah, you're back. I lost you for a second there. Sorry.
Oh, you still there?
Yeah, I got you now. You hear me? I'll keep talking so that if you. Okay, I see.
We're back.
Yeah, you hear me good? You hear me okay?
Some reason my internet cut out.
No sweat. I think that's a decent spot for me to, because I've been keeping you all morning here, and I still wanted to ask you about.
Can I just say quickly?
Oh yes, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't want people to think I'm knocking the pipe and drum, the militarization.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
My favorite thing of the Highland Games is the mass bands, because there is something about. Like, there's something about listening to a solo piper do his own nuanced version of a tune. That's cool. There's something about having 500 pipers doing all the same thing at all the same time. And just like, that's a whole nother level of cool. I think people are resistant to one because they think it's going to replace the other. But I think, no, we can have both. Yeah. Both exist, right?
It's like a yes and situation.
Yeah, it's not a well, if we allow people to play Star Wars on the bagpipes, we're going to lose,
we're going to lose Scotland the Brave.
Yeah, yeah. Or if we allow someone to play without embellishments, no one's going to be playing embellishments in 10 years. No, of course not. There's room. Like, I really feel there's room for both. I just happen to live, like, if I lived close enough, I'd play in a pipe and drum band. I just happen to be 2.5 hours from the nearest band. That's, I'm an hour and 15 minutes from a grade 5 band, but like, if I wanted to play in a higher level band, I'm 2.5 hour one-way drive away. So like, I'm just in a situation where this is what works for me, and this is kind of what I really enjoy. But it's like, it's not you can't have this freedom or basic musicality with the pipes and then lose this band tradition. Of course not. I think we can have both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're preaching what you might call a big tent bagpiping here.
Yeah.
There's room for all of it.
Exactly.
Now, Alec, you and I talked about doing a special T-shirt project.
Oh, yes.
By the time this episode goes out, I intend to have that set up. So we can talk about it right now, and then awesome. I'll have it set up by then.
Sure.
You sent the sketches to me, and I've had the elements for design ideas up in my design software for weeks now.
Oh, and that's cool.
I'm not ignoring it in any way. And right now, I'll tell you, and I guess we'll see if the final product comes out like this, but I'll send you some ideas to kind of approve or make changes to. But like, my thought right now is that it would be cool to do like a T-shirt with kind of a very like natural colored T-shirt to start with, like kind of a tan sand kind of color. And then have a crest on the front that looks similar to something like a Parks and Forest Service kind of looking thing.
Okay, yeah.
As if Get Bagpipe Ready, were the forestry department, and the person wearing the shirt is a ranger, and then on the back probably some sort of motif with the bagpipes and trees and stuff like that. But do you want to maybe talk a little bit about like the idea behind the the whole why make it about trees and stuff?
Right. Yeah, of course. I must say, I really love what you're doing, like the kind of online farmers market of to support different groups and stuff, and have a place where they can have their T-shirts or content like that. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, plug for Bagpipe Swag. If anybody out there wants their band on there, email me. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, because that's something I'd looked into before, and it seemed like too much work, and I was really trying to be more environmentally conscious. I'm like the failing environmentalist.
Yeah.
You know, run my gas mower, and I was driving tractor yesterday, and like, I'm like, oh, I'm still burning lots of fossil fuels, but definitely becoming more environmentally conscious. And you know, there's like, and I see this in our Facebook group, like people will join and they're just trying to sell T-shirts from Pakistan or wherever, right?
Sure,
like
sure, yeah.
they have no interest in bagpiping. They don't ask my permission. They just say, you know, just, and so there's a lot of cheesy, cheap bagpipe shirts out there online, and it's like, well, if I do something online, I'd rather like selling shirts. I want it to be something people like, but also it's not just another cheap shirt made in a way that it's not great for people or great for the environment. And
Right.
you know, I want to go down a different path. So so I was kind of like, well, maybe if it was more environmentally sourced or good humanitarian sourcing shirt, and somehow helps someone, like maybe helps a charity or something, like they have those things, you buy this and percentage of the profit, goes to this charity. And
Right.
I was like, well, what charity would pipers care about? And I thought of the blackwood, how much we use blackwood.
We want those forests conserved so we can harvest the trees later.
Yeah, which we think about blackwood being the gold standard wood for piping, and certainly it has for piping and oboes and clarinets and things like that.
Yeah.
But again, if we think more traditional, well, before Africa was really, colonized, like there was no blackwood, so
not a ton of blackwood growing naturally in Scotland.
No. So I'm really fascinated by like the quiet piper. And so I ordered the first set of pipes because I got one set of pipes for my grade 12 grad, and then my small pipes after winning the fishing derby when I was like 13 or 14. And I've never got another set of pipes, but I ordered some from the Quiet Piper in January. So, I'm just so excited.
How long have you been waiting though?
Those.
He's got to have I'm sure he has a long wait list.
Yeah,
he's a very popular maker these days, isn't he?
Yeah, I told him I was getting them for my birthday, and he's like, "Well, when's your birthday?" I was like, "Oh, January 18th is like 10 days away."
He's like, "How about your birthday in 2 or 3 years?"
But I said, "But I recognize it's my birthday for next year, not this year."
There you go. Yeah.
So I think he said at the time it was like a 10 or 12 month wait list, I think, if I remember right.
Let me sneak in a plug for my buddies over at Moral Bagpipes as well. They also do like different woods.
Okay.
And
are they in the U.S.?
They're in Utah, yeah.
Oh, I have to look them up. Yeah.
And that's not to take away from Felsberg either. Felsberg is just busy enough that I don't think he would mind me mentioning that there are other makers that are also doing like local woods and alternative hardwoods.
Right.
And of course, we already mentioned Dave, who's doing it out of 3D printing. Making stuff affordable and stuff too.
Yeah, like affordable and good for the environment. And then there is a guy in I can't remember his name. I know Jeremy from We2Wig plays some of his pipes, I think.
Oh, is it John
Swain? I was asking
Swain?
him about him. Caldwood pipes, or I can't remember. But he uses a lot of like yew and plumwood and like woods that people would have used in Scotland.
Because I know that Jeremy's is also on Felsberg's wait list. He's also getting some from the Quiet Piper that aren't there yet, but I know that his border pipes he recently got were from John Swain.
Okay, that could be.
But he's got a lot of different instruments really. So I don't know. It might be one of the other sets. I'm not sure about.
I know. I'd love to go to his house for a weekend.
Oh, dude, seriously. He and John Charles, who's done some guest hosting on Way Too Twag's Bagpipe History podcast, they got together a little while ago, and the photos they put on social media of just the big pile in John Charles's living room of all of their bagpipes combined made me so jealous, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, like border pipes. I'd never heard of border pipes before I kind of started get Bagpipe Ready and going along. Yeah, like there's a lot of cool stuff out there.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so, but a lot of these cool pipes are made with blackwood.
Right.
And so I wanted to really, I thought, that could be a charity if one exists that pipers would care about, is preserving the blackwood forest. And it's also like helping people their sustainable practice. Like, it's not just like, well, let's run a community out of their homes so we can plant blackwood trees. No, it's like integrating local knowledge and resources and making it like sustainable from a humanitarian perspective as well, and incorporating culture. So I found this charity and had swapped a couple of emails, and I think that would be a really good one. I think their logo is "Don't let the music tree go silent."
That's lovely.
So if we get these shirts rolling, it'd be, not your average cheap shirt made cheaply and cheesy. It'd be like, definitely a higher price point, but you're paying for something is good quality and came from a good place with treating the people good and also going to a cause to, hey, let's, maybe in the past we didn't know any better and we could have been harvesting blackwood trees more humanely or better for the cultures that were there. And well, let's try to change things moving forward, because we got to treat the trees right if we're going to be able to continue having them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, so then in the show notes below, what I'll have is a link straight to the shirt that, as we talk, doesn't yet exist, but will by the time this comes out. And I have already double checked on sourcing the T-shirt itself. We can get a shirt made of at least some recycled materials, if not entirely recycled materials, and awesome. from a non-sweatshop, non-child labor kind of situation for manufacturing as well.
Yeah, right.
And then the printing will have done awesome. all the printing done with Bagpipe Swag is done in the closest possible local shop to where the order is placed, and so it reduces how many miles each item travels.
Awesome.
And that'll
and that's something I hadn't even thought of, right? Mm-hmm. Like I was and you're already doing stuff that considering the environment of
I'm also
I hadn't even thought of, so I was like, that's really cool.
I'm with you. Yeah. I'm also somebody who uses a lot of electricity and gasoline but feels really guilty about it the whole time.
Yeah.
But the other thing too is that I will this month, the month in which this episode is coming out, I do a prize drawing every once in a while for any Patreon supporters of Droning On, and so that awesome. Will be the prize drawing this month is one of these T-shirts, and so that will be announced in the show notes and on social media and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, awesome. And yeah, like that, the shirt you sent me, thanks so much. Yeah, it was one of the recycled or partially recycled
right.
clothing shirts, like the long sleeve with the Beatles.
Yeah, what did you
it's
think
awesome.
Of that?
Oh, it's awesome. It's a perfect fit. It's like great quality. I've worn it in some bagpipe videos.
Yeah, I saw one of them actually. Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah, I love that shirt. It's awesome. So I'm excited for these ones.
So that's the thing. That's Alec, and that's Get Bagpipe Ready, and that's the cool T-shirt, and that's the episode, man. Unless you awesome. You got some wisdom you want to drop on us as we fade away.
I would just say, like, well, if you want to learn the bagpipes, check out my channel. but really, if there's something you want to do, like, don't be afraid to fail at it over and over, because that's how you're going to figure it out. Like that's how our piping gets better. That's how I've created this business, and yeah, it's always good to include more people.